There's a brand new pickup sitting on a flatbed outside a dealership service door, and it has just over 3,000 miles on the odometer, not 30,000. The paint still has that showroom shine, the tires still have the little rubber nubs on them, and the truck is dead. Won't move under its own power. The guy who owns it is standing there with his arms crossed, watching a tow driver winch his $60,000, $70,000 truck up onto the deck like it's a wreck, because somewhere deep inside that engine, a bearing spun and locked the whole thing up. He did nothing wrong. He changed the oil. He drove it gently, and it grenaded anyway, because the thing that killed it was built into it at the factory before he ever signed the paperwork. I've been around engines my whole life. I've pulled apart more of them than I can count, cleaned the grit out of oil pans, listened to that awful marble in a coffee can knock that means a bottom end is about to let go. And I'll tell you something that took me a long time to make peace with. A truck dying young used to be a fluke. Now, on some of these new ones, it's baked into the recipe. So, here's the deal with this one. Somebody slapped a title on this video that says, "These are the trucks Americans regret buying," ranked from bad to catastrophic. And that word, catastrophic, that's a big swing. Most of these trucks won't leave you on the side of the road. Some of them are honestly decent machines that just cost their owners in ways they never saw coming. But a couple of them earn that word completely. And we're going to build up to those. I'm going to count you down from the ones that'll just annoy you all the way to the ones that'll break your heart and your wallet at the same time. And there's a thread running through every single one of these. So watch for it. It's the same story told 12 different ways. It's the story of how trucks stopped being simple and started being complicated, and how that complication almost never works in your favor. Stay with me all the way to number one, because the truck sitting at the top of this list is the last one on earth you'd expect. Let me show you what's really going on. Here's the thing nobody tells you at the dealership. For about 70 years, a pickup truck was one of the most honest machines a person could own. Big lazy engine, cast iron block, a transmission with 3 or 4 gears, and not much else. It made its power the old-fashioned way by being big, and because it wasn't stressed it lasted, you could work on it in your driveway with a socket set and a Saturday afternoon. Then the rules changed. Fuel economy standards tightened. Marketing departments got involved, and the industry figured out you could take a smaller engine, bolt turbochargers to it, squeeze it hard, and get big engine power on paper with better mileage on the sticker on paper. They added 10-speed transmissions, cylinder shutoff systems, direct injection running at unbelievable pressures, and enough computers to run a small airport. Every bit of that was sold to you as progress. And some of it is, but every bit of it is also another thing that can break. Another thing you can't fix yourself, and another thing that quietly serves somebody else's balance sheet instead of your truck's lifespan. Keep that in the back of your mind as we go. Now let's count them down. Number 12, the Jeep Gladiator. I want to be fair here because the newest ones are better than the early ones, and Jeeps hold their value about as well as anything on this list. But the Gladiator is a truck you buy with your heart, and your heart doesn't read the reliability data. This thing shares its bones with the Wrangler, which means it inherited all of the Wrangler's baggage. The electrical gremlins are the big one. Owners report screens that freeze, phone connections that drop, windows and warning lights that do their own thing. The earlier trucks were famous for the death wobble, that violent shake through the steering when a solid front axle with worn parts hits a bump at speed. There's a long list of recalls behind this truck. Everything from an instrument cluster that could short out and go blank to a clutch that could overheat and crack. And here's the part that stings. You pay Wrangler plus money, more than most mid-sized trucks cost, and in return, you get a truck that tows less and rides rougher than the numbers on the window sticker would have you believe. It's a lifestyle. Just go in knowing you're paying for the badge and the open air, not for bulletproof engineering. Number 11, the redesigned Toyota Tacoma, the newest generation with the little turbocharged 4-cylinder. Now, I'll be straight with you. This is the mild end of the list, and Consumer Reports actually puts the current Tacoma back on top for midsize reliability after a rough first year. So why is it here? Because of what got traded away. The old Tacoma had a naturally aspirated engine that was slow, thirsty, and absolutely unkillable. Toyota replaced it with a 2.4-liter Turbo 4 and an 8-speed automatic. And that first model year, owners lit up the forums. Rough shifts, gears hunting up and down, the transmission dropping into neutral on its own, hesitation off the line, sometimes inside the first 1,000 miles. There was a recall on a front drive shaft part that could deform or break. And that little turbo engine worked hard to move a truck this size is not returning the fuel economy people expected, especially out of a small tank. It's a good truck, but it's a complicated truck now, where it used to be a simple one, and complication is the whole theme of this list. Number 10, the Chevrolet Colorado and its twin, the GMC Canyon. Same trucks, same plant, same problems, so I'm counting them as one. On paper, these are excellent mid-sized trucks. In the reliability surveys, they've been sitting at the very bottom of the pack. The dings come from the powertrain, and more worryingly, the brakes. There have been reports of the electronic brake assist getting confused in cold weather and forcing the truck into a limp mode, crawling along at 40-something miles an hour until it sorts itself out. The 8-speed automatic has that classic shudder during low-speed slowing, the kind of thing you feel in the seat of your pants and know isn't right. GM pushed an over-the-air update that fixed a lot of the infotainment complaints, which tells you how much of a modern truck is really just software now. Layer on a handful of earlier recalls for hub bolts torqued wrong, for seat bolts left loose, for the automatic braking slamming on when nothing was in front of you. And you start to see a pattern of little things slipping through the cracks. And that's the tell. When your truck's problems get fixed by a download, you're not driving a machine anymore. You're driving a computer that happens to have a bed. Number 9, the Ford F-150. Yes, the best-selling vehicle in America. And no, I'm not saying don't buy one. I'm saying the thing everyone complains about is real, and it's the 10-speed automatic transmission. This gearbox, which Ford developed together with General Motors, has generated years of complaints about harsh shifting, clunking, and delayed engagement, so many that there's a class action lawsuit over it. In early 2025, Ford recalled certain 2024 and 2025 F-150s because a transmission valve body had been machined wrong, which could cause the truck to fail to go into reverse or lurch forward unexpectedly. On top of that, the shift-by-wire system, the electronic gear selector, has left some owners, especially in the hybrid Power Boost trucks, stranded and stuck in park at a gas station or a boat ramp. And Ford has led the entire industry in the sheer number of recalls year after year. The engines themselves are mostly fine now. It's everything bolted around them, the transmission, the electronics, the endless trips back to the dealer that wears people down. Number 8, the Ford F-150 Lightning, the electric one. And this one hurts because the people who own them mostly love them. It's quiet, it's quick, it tows, and you never stop for gas. So why is it a regret? Money. Pure money. This truck depreciates like a stone dropped off a bridge. Depending on how you bought it, a Lightning can lose somewhere between roughly half and 60% of its value in the first handful of years, while a plain gas F-150 is still holding well over half of its worth. Somebody who paid $90,000 for a loaded one watched it slide to around 40, and then at the end of 2025, Ford made the whole thing worse by announcing it's winding down the current Lightning and pivoting back to hybrids, taking a write-down measured in the billions. So now you own an orphan, a truck the company that built it has already moved on from. There's nothing wrong with the machine, but financially, the early buyers took a beating, and buying one new today means volunteering to take the next one. Number 7, the Rivian R1T. I have real respect for this truck. It's clever, it's fast, it goes off-road better than a startup's first product has any right to, but respect doesn't pay the repair bill. And this is where the electric truck dream meets the electric truck reality. Rivian, as a young company, has landed near the very bottom of the brand reliability rankings, second to last in one big survey. Owners report air suspensions that burn out and drop the truck onto its bump stops, drive units that fail, and a 12-volt battery that, when it dies, can take the whole truck down with it, sometimes requiring a flatbed to one of the not very many service centers. And the running costs are eye-watering. Depending on where you live, ensuring one of these can run you well over $20,000 a year. Add in steep depreciation and repair parts that only come from one place, and you've got a truck that costs a fortune to own, even when nothing's wrong. And here's the twist. The routine maintenance is actually cheap, so that's not the problem. It's the crash repairs and the insurance that quietly bleed you. And more than a few owners will tell you the very first trucks were put together better than the ones that came after. That's the modern trap in a nutshell, a beautiful, sealed, software-defined machine that you are completely dependent on somebody else to keep alive. Number 6, the GMC Hummer EV. This is where regret starts getting expensive and a little absurd. This truck weighs somewhere around 9,000 pounds. That's not a typo. The battery pack alone weighs about as much as an entire small car. To move all that mass, it needs an enormous, wildly expensive battery, which means it's deeply inefficient for an electric vehicle, and it doesn't even qualify for the federal tax credit because it costs too much. Then there's the reliability. Owners have reported software glitches, high voltage faults, and in some genuinely ugly cases, batteries that failed twice inside the first 6,000 miles, leading to lemon law buybacks. And the depreciation is brutal. A truck that stickered around $130,000 has been changing hands closer to 70 after just a couple of years. One owner online described buying it as one of the worst financial decisions of his life, second only to his divorce. When your truck gets compared to a divorce, that's the review right there. Number 5, the Tesla Cybertruck. Where do I even start? This was supposed to be the truck that turned the whole industry upside down, and instead it turned early buyers upside down on their loans. It's had somewhere around 8 to 10 recalls in about 2 years. One of them was for exterior trim panels that could literally peel off and fly away on the highway because the adhesive holding them on could let go. A more recent one covered trucks whose brake rotor could crack around the wheel studs, in the worst case leading to a wheel separating from the truck. Owners in cold, salty climates have reported rust spots forming on a body that was sold as stainless and rust-proof. The range came in under what was promised, and the sales tell the story. Tesla went from selling around 39,000 of these in its first year to about 20,000 the next, against an original dream of 250,000 a year, and started cutting prices by thousands to move the ones sitting on lots, which craters the resale value of the ones people already bought. A third of the value gone in the first year. And for a good while, if you wanted out, Tesla made it hard, discouraging owners from reselling and refusing to take them as trade-ins. So you were stuck holding a truck that was dropping like a rock. You paid six figures to be a beta tester, and the software update can't fix a wheel falling off. Number 4, the Ram 1500, and now we're into serious territory. In the most recent reliability survey, the Ram 1500 didn't just do badly, it was ranked dead last among full-size trucks, one of the lowest scores that outfit has ever handed a pickup. Part of that is the electronics, the keyless system draining batteries, the screens acting up, the recalls, but part of it is under the hood. A couple of years ago, Ram made a huge bet. It killed the old 5.7 Hemi V8, the engine its buyers loved, and replaced it across the lineup with a twin turbocharged inline six they call the Hurricane. On paper, the Hurricane is the better engine, more power, better mileage, and the customers revolted. Ram's share of the truck market collapsed from around 18% down to about 8%. Sales fell off a cliff, and the brand new engine started showing early life gremlins, check engine lights, misfires, cooling issues. It got so bad that Ram's own boss stood up and admitted in plain words that dropping the V8 was a mistake, and they brought the Hemi back for 2026. Think about what that tells you. The company itself looked at its most complicated new engine and its worst in class reliability score and reversed course. When the manufacturer admits it's screwed up, you should probably listen. Number 3, the Ford Super Duty with the 6.7-liter Power Stroke diesel. This is the one that can turn a routine drive into a 5-figure catastrophe, and it comes down to one small, cheap part. These diesels use a high-pressure fuel pump made by Bosch called the CP4. Here's the problem with the CP4. It was designed for the cleaner, more lubricating diesel fuel they have in Europe, not the drier fuel we run here in the States. Starved of lubrication, that pump can wear against itself, and when it fails, it doesn't fail quietly. It grinds itself into metal shavings and sends them downstream through the entire fuel system, contaminating the injectors, the lines, the rails, all of it. At that point, you're not replacing a pump, you're rebuilding the entire fuel system, and the bill runs $10,000 to $15,000, sometimes more. Ford recalled nearly 300,000 of these older diesels over failing pumps and blamed it partly on stale biodiesel. But here's the part that gets me. When Ram had this exact same pump fail in its Cummins diesels, Ram fixed it right by swapping in an older, tougher pump design. Ford's remedy? A software update to keep the pump cooler. That's it, a Band-Aid on a part that can take the whole engine down with it. And this is the same company regulators hit with a $165 million fine over how slowly it moves on recalls. A company that has issued more than 100 separate recall campaigns in a single year, covering millions of vehicles. You buy an $80,000, $90,000 work truck to be dependable, and there's a grenade in the fuel system. Number 2, the Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra 1500 with the 6.2-liter V8, the engine they code the L87. This is one of the biggest engine messes in recent memory, and it's happening on trucks people bought to be the safe, all-American choice. General Motors recalled somewhere around 600,000 trucks and SUVs with this engine, and federal investigators have looked at a pool closer to nearly 900,000. The reason is the same nightmare we opened with. The connecting rod and crankshaft bearings in a batch of these engines weren't made to spec, and they can seize and lock up the engine, killing all power, sometimes with no warning at all. There are owners of brand new 2026 trucks reporting catastrophic engine failure with barely 3,000 miles on them. And that's on top of a completely separate long-running problem with these V8s, the cylinder shutoff system where a lifter can collapse and take out the camshaft, bending push rods and chewing up the cylinder head. It got so bad that Chevy had to issue stop sale orders, meaning dealers were legally not allowed to sell trucks sitting right there on the lot. And when your engine finally does get swapped, plenty of owners have been told the replacement is a remanufactured unit, not a fresh one, while GM runs an engine plant on overtime, just trying to keep up with the demand for new bottom ends. This is not some oddball engine. This is the heart of GM's most profitable trucks, and it's eating itself. And number one, the one I told you to wait for, the Toyota Tundra. And if you know anything about trucks, you just felt that in your gut, because this is Toyota, the company whose entire reputation is built on the idea that their stuff simply does not break. For decades, buyers paid extra for a Toyota truck precisely so they'd never have to stand next to a flatbed with their arms crossed. Then Toyota did the modern thing. It took out the bulletproof 5.7-liter V8 and replaced it with a 3.4-liter twin turbocharged V6 they call the V35A. More power, better mileage, more sophistication, and it started grenading. The cause is almost too perfect for this story. During manufacturing, machining debris, tiny metal shavings, was left inside the engines, and it can migrate to the number one main bearing and destroy it, causing knocking, rough running, and complete engine failure, sometimes at highway speed. Toyota has now recalled these engines 3 separate times in 2024, 2025, and 2026, adding up to nearly 270,000 vehicles. And their fix for a long stretch was to replace the entire engine. Tens of thousands of brand new engines swapped out of trucks that were supposed to be the last word in reliability. And it gets stranger. As the bill piled higher, Toyota shifted away from simply replacing every affected engine and started running a sound test on the crankshaft to decide which ones truly need it, which did not sit well with owners who'd rather have a fresh engine than a maybe. Meanwhile, they are still building brand new trucks with that same engine family, hoping the revised parts hold up. And here's the tell that ties this whole list together. The hybrid version, the iForce Max, has somehow escaped this mess, which points a finger right back at how these particular engines were bolted together on the line, not at some act of God. The one truck you buy so you never have this conversation is having this conversation louder than anyone. That's your number one. Now, here's where I want to slow down, because if you've been paying attention, you've spotted the thread. Look at the top of this list. Toyota, metal shavings in the engine. General Motors, bad bearings in the engine. Ford's diesel, a fuel pump that grinds itself into metal shards and spits them through the whole system. 3 different companies, 3 of the most trusted names in the business, and the same fundamental story. Modern trucks killed by their own metal from corners cut somewhere in a factory or a supplier's parts bin. So let me ask the question that actually matters. Why is this happening now when it barely happened before? And the honest answer isn't a grand conspiracy. It's simpler and, in a way, worse than that. It's math. Every one of these problems traces back to a decision that saves somebody money or hits some number on a chart. The turbochargers and the tiny engines are there to pass fuel economy tests and look good in a brochure. The direct injection runs at pressures that need pumps like that fragile CP4, chosen because it's cheaper and more efficient than the tough old design. The cylinder shutoff, the 10-speed transmissions, the shift-by-wire, the giant screens replacing buttons, all of it trims a few cents or a few tenths of a mile per gallon, and every bit of it adds complexity that can fail. And here's the part that should make you a little angry. There is no money in a simple truck that lasts 400,000 miles. None. A truck like that, you buy once, you fix yourself, and you keep for 20 years. But a truck that's complicated, sealed up, and can only be serviced by the dealer with a laptop, that truck is a revenue stream. There's money in the parts. There's money in the labor. There's money in you trading it in the second the warranty ends because you're scared of what comes next. And there's a whole lot of money in you simply not understanding what's under there, so you have to trust them. The old trucks were built to be understood. A lot of the new ones are built to keep you dependent. That's the trade. I think about the guys who built engines back when overbuilding was just how it was done. They put in more bearing than they needed, more iron than they needed, made the fuel systems mechanical and stupid simple because their name was on it, and they figured a man ought to be able to fix his own truck. Somewhere along the line, we let that go. We traded the machine you could open and understand for the sealed box you're told to trust. And the thing that quietly gets taken from you in that trade isn't just money. It's the ability to stand on your own 2 feet, to look under the hood and actually know what you're looking at, to keep an honest machine running with your own 2 hands. That's worth more than any tenth of a mile per gallon. So here's what I want you to do with all this, because I'm not trying to scare you off trucks. I love trucks. I'm trying to make you a sharper buyer. First, whatever truck you're looking at, take 5 minutes and run the VIN through the recall lookup before you sign anything. It's free and it takes longer to make coffee. Second, when you have a choice of engines, lean toward the simpler, more proven one. A port-injected V8 with a long track record will almost always outlive the smallest, most heavily turbocharged option in the lineup, no matter what the brochure says. Third, if you want an electric truck, let somebody else eat that first brutal chunk of depreciation and buy it a few years used, with the recalls done and the warranty still breathing. Fourth, treat a really long factory powertrain warranty as a clue, not a comfort. When a company suddenly offers you 10 years of coverage, ask yourself why they think they need to. And last, keep your records, learn the sound of your own engine, and don't let anybody tell you a clunk or a knock is normal. It isn't. Picture it a year from now. You're the person at the dealership asking the salesman which engine has the bearing problem and watching his face when he realizes you already know. You're the one who bought the boring, proven powertrain and is still driving it quietly while your buddy's fancy truck is on its second loaner. That's the whole payoff of understanding this stuff. Not being smarter than everyone, just not being the guy standing next to the flatbed. I want to hear from you on this one, so tell me in the comments below. What are you driving right now? And has it been honest with you, or has it let you down? I especially want to hear from the folks who've actually turned wrenches on these, the mechanics and the shop guys guys and the owners who've had an engine out on a stand. What did you see with your own eyes? Which of these trucks did I go too easy on? And which one did I get wrong? And where are you watching from? Because the fuel, the climate, and the roads change this story depending on where you live. I read every single one of these, and those replies are the whole reason I keep doing this. If you got something out of this, do me a favor and subscribe, because the next one is going to poke a hole in one of the biggest lies in the whole business. You've seen it on the dipstick, or rather you've seen where the dipstick used to be. Fluid that's filled for life, sealed for life, never needs changing, and I'm going to show you exactly why that little phrase might be the most expensive 4 words ever written into an owner's manual, and who's really counting on you believing it. That's coming up next. Until then, do yourself a favor, go start your truck, listen to it for a second, and be glad if it's boring. Boring is the sound of a machine that's going to be there in the morning.